Hello everyone, welcome back to Too Sweet MTG and welcome to another Commander Deck Tech. It's Lord of the Rings season and it's time to talk about the Lord of the Nazgûl. It is 3 blue and a black for a 4/3 legendary creature Wraith Noble. It has flying and Wraiths you control have protection from Ring Bearers. As well as, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 3/3 black Wraith creature token with Menace. Then, if you control 9 or more Wraiths, Wraiths you control have base power and toughness 9/9 until end of turn. So, with the Lord of the Rings set, we have a nice new card for the Witch King of Angmar, and while there are actually 2 others in this block of cards, the Lord of the Nazgûl is the one that stands out to me as the best commander. Firstly, it's 2 colours, so we get access to more cards. Secondly, it's the only one printed in the Commander set, which means its ability to make us an army of Wraith tokens is the one most suited to the multiplayer format. So, how are we going to build this? Well, basically, this is going to be a spellslinger deck with a Wraith Matters subtheme. We're primarily going to be focusing on that ability to make us 3/3 Wraiths with Menace whenever we cast an instant or sorcery. We've seen this ability a bunch of times on plenty of creatures and commanders, but 3/3 Menace bodies may just be the best creature tokens that we've seen out of all of them, especially ones that can be our commander. The plan for this deck is that we're going to be casting a bucket load of cheap spells to keep us drawing through our deck, answering our opponent's threats, ramping us ahead, protecting our board, all in the process of making us an army of Wraiths. What's even better about the Lord of the Nazgûl is that if that ability triggers and we control 9 or more Wraiths, which will include itself and the other Wraiths that we're running, they all get base power and toughness 9/9 until end of turn. That is a very scary combination, as it means the Lord of the Nazgûl is not only the engine to make us the board state, but it's also the primary win condition of the deck as well. Before we jump in, a quick note on how this video will work. What we'll be doing is giving you a breakdown of all the different types of sections that you need to make the deck work. We won't be giving you a full deck list, rather we'll be giving you all the categories and the number of cards in each category that you need to run. You can then pick the ones that suit your budget or your playstyle. All the sections and any cards we mentioned will be down in the description below. Our instants and sorceries that make us that board state with our commander will be the bulk of the deck. But before we get to those, let's go over the other Wraith creatures that we're going to be running. These just give us an easier time of getting to that magic 9 number, while also just being good creatures themselves. First up, because it's cool, flavorful, and they work really well in the deck, we're running 9 Nazgûl. These are 1/2s with Death Touch that whenever they come into play, the ring tempts you. When the ring tempts you, you put a counter on each Wraith that you control. This basically means that whenever they come into play, you put a counter on every Wraith that you have. Importantly, including the ones made by our commander. And remember, because we can run 9 of these in the deck, if we have multiples in play, they will stack. That is honestly going to be extremely strong. Also, bonus points from me anyway if you manage to get 1 of each art in play. Next we have our other 3 Wraiths from this set. We have the Witch King of Angmar, a great way of putting an opponent off of attacking us, as when we take combat damage it makes that player sacrifice a creature. Plus it adds more ring temptation to put counters on our team with the previous mentioned Nazgûl. We then have the Ringwraiths, a nice bit of removal that will be fairly repeatable, again while also adding some ring temptation. Then we have the Witch King, Bringer of Ruin, another solid creature to add to that Wraith count that also makes a player sack a creature. For some non-Middle-earth race, we steam into the 41st millennium with Canoptek Wraith, a fine creature that adds to our Wraith count and is also a solid way of ramping us ahead early in the game. Late game, this can just be an unblockable 9/9, which is obviously fantastic. Then we also have Street Wraith. You are most likely going to end up cycling this early to draw a card. Smoothing out your deck is always nice, but again, late game, we can just play it, and if an opponent controls a swamp, another potential unblockable 9/9. Okay, let's move on to our card draw. This is going to be a pretty big chunk of cards because a lot of them will make creatures with our commander. By that, I firstly mean cheap blue cantrips. Cards that cost preferably 1 mana, have some good effect, but importantly, just replace themselves with another card. There are a ton of good options out here, including the new Birthday Escape for some more added temptation. These all importantly trigger our commander, so if all goes to plan, we can just keep playing these out, making more and more Wraiths. Next up we have some black cantrips. In this deck these are just as solid as the blue ones, and spreading them over our colours will help make the mana requirements on the deck that little bit easier. We need to run swamps to cast our commander, so we're going to have some in play. We then have Distant Melody, a spell that draws us cards equal to the number of each creature of the same type that we have. In a deck spewing out Wraiths, this should easily draw us a bunch of cards. For some permanents to add to that card draw, we first have Kindred Discovery. We'll name Wraith and then we'll draw a card whenever one comes into play or attacks. Absolutely perfect for everything else that the deck is doing. We then have Archmage Emeritus. Like our commander, it rewards us when we cast instants and sorceries, but instead of creatures, we get more lovely card draw. Absolutely fantastic. Then we have Wavebreak Hippocamp. This draws us cards whenever we cast a spell on our opponent's turns. This probably won't draw as many cards as the Archmage Emeritus, but we have have so many instants that we can cast on our opponent's turns, it just makes sense to take advantage of it. Next up, we have Call of the Ring. This is effectively pay 2 life each upkeep to draw a card, and then the ring tempts you. We would probably run this just for the card draw, but the fact that this tempts you, triggering all of our Nazgûl to make our board bigger, means this becomes a slam dunk. For some more ring-tempting card draw, we have a mini fact or fiction in Sauron's Ransom. Again, giving us the card draw that we want anyway, and working with other parts of the deck as well. Time to move over to our ramp now. This is the important base to give us the mana that we need to cast our spells. First up, we have our mana rocks. We're not in green, so these are the best options available to us. Because of the amount of single mana spells that we're running, the ones that tap for coloured mana will be better than the ones that don't, as unfortunately we can't cast an opt with a Thought Vessel. They're all still going to be very good, and they all have a place in the deck. We also then have Wayfarer's Bauble, a great little artifact that goes and gets a basic land out of the deck and puts it into play. Then we have some spells that one-shot make us some mana. I don't think you need too many of these, but cards like Dark Ritual and Culling the Weak are great at triggering our commander, while also giving us a little boost in a turn to do something really big and stupid. Next up is our interaction section. Like with all decks, we're going to start at 8 bits and go up from there the more competitive that the playgroup is. Starting off with some blue exile spells, we have Reality Shift and Resculpt. Its commander, whenever we end up exiling with these, will be better than the token bodies that they leave behind. Then we have some targeted removal in black. There is far too many to go through in just one video, but I always like Infernal Grasp as the downside is so low, and then Feed the Swarm as it can also importantly answer enchantments. We also then have plenty of options in black for our board wipes. The best ones are still Toxic Deluge and Damnation, but there are plenty more out there to suit anyone's budget. Next up is a little bit of protection. Once people see how many wraiths this deck will be making, they will want to do their best to stop the Witch King from popping off. This section is there to stop our opponents from doing that. First up, we have some counter magic. You don't always have to go big and expensive. An offer you can't refuse, Disdainful Stroke, Negate, and good old-fashioned counterspell will get the job done. They'll be perfect for countering that important board wipe or bit of targeted removal aimed at our commander, while also triggering it to make more wraith threats. And then, because I just love these cards, we also have some undying effects. Spells that bring a key creature back, like our commander for example, from the graveyard to the battlefield if it's just died. Again, they'll also trigger it and make more wraith bodies, all while keeping the Lord of the Nazgûl around. Then lastly, we have a flavor fail, but an awesome card win with Mithril Coat. Darksteel Plate got a massive glow up with this card, and will go perfect with all of our instant or sorceries, so our opponents really won't know what we're up to. Okay, with the base of the deck out of the way, let's go over some more dedicated ways of winning the game. First up, we have Arenkius's Vile Duplication. Why only have one commander when we can have two? Which, while we're doing that, will trigger our first commander to make us a wraith as well. This is a surefire way of getting those 9 wraiths super quickly. Once we have that wraith board, we can use cards like Cover of Darkness, Levitation, and Eldrazi Monument as ways of making our board unblockable, by either giving them Fear or Flying. Just imagine that board of 9/9s that can now not be blocked by our opponents. That is genuinely super scary. What else goes great with a board of 9/9s is Tainted Strike. Giving an unblocked buffed up Nazgûl +1/+0 and Infect will take out a player. Then finally we have Rite of Replication. I love me a bit of Boomer Commander, and nothing says that like paying 9 mana for 5 copies of a creature. But when those 5 copies help us get towards having 9 Nazgûl, that is a big help. Or, back up, we can just have 5 or whatever the best creature is on the board. Rounding off the deck with some utility lands, we have a decent little selection to go over. First up is Reliquary Tower. We could be drawing so many cards in this deck that this will just help us keep all those lovely gains. Then with any deck that revolves heavily around the commander, we have Command Beacon. Great at letting us reset that command attacks one time. We then have Path of Ancestry. While the deck isn't super chock-a-block with wraiths, it's a dual land that will let us scry a couple of times in a game, which is not nothing. And then we have Bojuka Bog as a way of keeping a graveyard player in check, and Mystic Sanctuary as a nice bit of recursion to bring back a key spell on top of our library. Right, thank you all very much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing. We're trying to get our way to 100,000 subscribers. We have only 97,000 to go until we get that little plaque, so I would highly appreciate it if you can follow the channel. Do all that liking, sharing stuff, it's all greatly appreciated. Also, let me know down in the comments if there's any other commanders from the Lord of the Rings set that you would like me to take a look at. I'm very hyped for this set, and there's a lot I want to be checking out. But anyway, until next time, I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.